Hello, back again to talk to you about book items. And if you don't have your book, you probably should hit pause and do that so that go get your book so that you can follow along. Again, chapter 6 and 7 will be on the final. They also are skills that apply to writing the next paper, not really the critical response, but the critical analysis. And aside from that, there's just a lot of really good stuff in here for being a thinking person in academic settings, as well as being just a thinking person in life. So hopefully, it's a good book. What else you doing, man? Read the thing. There's a lot of good reading in here, and if you go through analysis, is essentially this whole chapter is about taking something apart, looking at the pieces and seeing how they function independently and separately. We're doing that with text. We're doing that with writing. In the real world, analysis is done all the time. The only way to figure out something is to take it apart. If I'm diagnosing, I used to mess with my car a little bit. If I'm trying to figure out what's wrong with it, I don't look at it as a whole. I look at individual parts, trying to determine what's wrong. So we're breaking down words and ideas to see what they are. Later, chapter 7, we go beyond breaking it into parts and identifying, in essence, what these are. And we actually start evaluating, is it good? Is it profitable, etc. Now, in this, you should be skeptical. That's the big trait. And if you haven't read it, you should. There's a lot of good ideas here. There are times to be skeptical. They give ideas here for evaluating whether a claim's extraordinary. Extraordinary. That means it's not an ordinary claim. And we're supposed to be even more skeptical if it involves the supernatural, where there's no evidence really other than testimonials oftentimes. Supernatural, that is an extraordinary claim. Now, as you go through, they gave a few other guidelines that you should consider. If it seems too good to be true, it probably is. You can take that to the bank, man. If its claim seems to have far-reaching consequences, it's probably extraordinary. And if it's meant to scare you or manipulate you, you want to withhold belief. It's hard thinking in these terms. I mean, right now with this whole coronavirus, people are panicking, and it's hard to determine just what's true and how we should respond. But and there are far-reaching consequences to this, but I remember back in '99, before most of you were even around, there was a big panic that all the computers in '99, the story got out that computers would crash because of that. And basically, there was some truth to that some of the computers hadn't been designed to respond properly when the clocks ticked and it became 2000 instead of 1999, but they're mostly just trashy little computers like you might find in a coffee maker or something, and nothing came of it. I mean, the lights didn't even dim. But there were people who were taken in by that. They weren't skeptical enough. I know a man, he's a smart guy about some things, but he's not that smart. I mean, he bought all kinds of, he's a computer guy, and he wound up getting a whole house generator and doing all kinds of things because he was sure the power was going off and he was going to make big money. And when everybody else couldn't get online, and it never happened. And I met another lady in a grocery store who was hoarding plastic bags. I asked her why. She was just wanted all the bags she could get. And I said, why are you doing that? And she said, you won't need them, honey, because this Y2K, that's what they call them. Y2K happens. Your plumbing and all is not going to, the sewers aren't going to work. Everything's going to crash, and you're going to need this to put your poop in. Gross. So anyway, don't be skeptical about things. Now, hopefully, you read through this. It's just profitable real life material. And there were some ideas here I asked you to look at. And for example, dreams can predict the future. That was one of the ones I suggested you consider. Not all of these. And if you didn't do it, it's fine. But I hope you read, at least thought about it. Again, these exercises are designed to help you do well on the test. They're designed to help you master concepts you'll need to express in the critical analysis. And it's a way of playing with these concepts to make sure you understand them. And they're useful for life. But here, dreams can predict the future. Hopefully you thought about, okay, is this a supernatural Or is this an extraordinary claim? Well, it is. It's supernatural. I mean, anything that's predicting the future in that manner, that's supernatural. That's out of the natural order of things. That's what that's meant by dreams can predict the future. Not the kind of dreams where, okay, I have a big dream that I'm going to be, a basketball star, and if I work hard, I can get there and it'll predict the future. I'm not talking about that kind of dream. I'm talking about the dream that you have when you're asleep. Do those predict the future? Now, I'm skeptical of that. But on the other hand, as a person who has multiple worldviews banging around in my head, I know that at least Western religious traditions hold that dreams do predict the future. I know among the big three Western religions, in their writings, there are lots of mentions of people who had dreams and indeed predicted the future, told them what was about to go down. I'm skeptical, but as a religious man, I'm open to that. And don't get weird on me, but I've had dreams predict the future. I dream a lot. I used to dream a lot. I don't anymore. Dreams, there is a process. It's biochemical in your head. They've done a lot of scans. They've researched it. All of us dream. You may not think you dream, but you are dreaming. If you don't remember your dreams, you're probably healthy. We tend to go through cycles of sleep. Sleep kind of goes up and down. And when you're in very deep sleep, you're dreaming. And then when you come up, you go out of the dream mode. Scientists kind of think your brain, it's like your computer defragging or something. That's why we do it. But if you are not awakened unnaturally, and you just naturally wake up, you won't remember that. It's buried. It's gone. The reason we remember dreams is we wake up really prematurely. And now I don't remember dreams unless the alarm goes off. I used to dream all the time. It turns out I had a sleep disorder. I had sleep apnea. And I had 37 apneic episodes an hour, they discovered. So now I look like I'm cooking meth or something. I wear a funky looking mask. But I've had a bunch of dreams that predicted the future. And I believe sometimes dreams are just biochemical weirdness, and sometimes I think there might be a supernatural dimension to it. I'm going to tell you one. Now, this is a testimony. You're free not to believe it, but I really believe it. I'm not making this up. Where I had a dream one time, and this is strange. I had a dream where in it was the summer of 1999, right before I came full-time at Del Tech. And I'd been teaching high school, and I had a really, really troublesome student. I taught him 3 times a day. I taught him, and he was just he had no sense of boundaries. He would just blurt out things and misbehave, and he's the only student I ever said, why don't you just go to the back and sleep? I had him for 10th grade English, 11th grade English, and study hall. And he must have gotten a lot of trouble because we had kind of an understanding and we worked it out, but he wound up getting expelled, just kicked out of school. And classes were better with him not being in there. I hate to say it, but it's true. But during the summer, I had a dream, and in my dreams, Paul visited me. That was his name. I probably shouldn't have said that. It's now on YouTube. Forget that. I'm not going to go back and re-record this. Nobody watches this but students. Anyway, this particular student, whom I will not refer to by that name anymore, this particular student in my dream came up to me in my dream and said, hey, yo, Sykes, I'm coming back next year, and I'm going to have you. And he pointed at me in the dream. And in the dream, I told him, I said, you can't come back to my class next year because I'm not there anymore. I'm teaching at Delaware Tech. And then suddenly I must have thrashed or something. I woke up, and I'm under the ceiling fan. It's spinning. And my wife, I woke up my wife, she said, what's going on? And she said, do you have a nightmare? I said, no, actually, it's kind of a good dream, I think. And I told her my dream, and I said, I hope this is one of those, like, God dreams, like in the Bible, and it comes true. And she said, I hope so, too. And she held my hand, and we prayed a little bit, and I went to sleep. Didn't think about the dream anymore. Well, some weeks later, I actually got hired. And when I went to my school to get my stuff, I had to put it all in my van and then bring it to Del Tech. And on the way to Del Tech, I pulled into Taco Bell on Route 40. Don't judge me. I know it's not authentic, but I like Taco Bell. Don't judge me. I think Taco Bell's okay, man. But I went in there to get a taco because I was hungry before I went and unloaded my stuff at school. I walk in the front door, and there is my student that I dreamed about. And I'm not making, this is weird. I'm not making it up. I walked in and he just looks at me. He was at one of those front tables just as I come in. He looks at me and he says, "Hey, Yo Sykes, I'm coming back next year and I'm going to have you." He even pointed at me. The exact words with the point, just like in my dream. Wow. I just stood there. It totally unsettled me. And I said, "Well, you can't have me. I'm going to tell you what I told you in my dream." I said, "You won't believe this, but I dreamed this was going to happen." And he said, "No." And I said, "Yeah." And I said, "You can't have me because I'm teaching at Del Tech now." He said, "No." And I said, "Yeah." And I told him, I said, "You need to see this as some kind of like God dream or something, man. God's telling you, when you go back, straighten up, fly right, man. Don't drive people crazy. You need to graduate." He said, "Oh, yeah, that's cool, man." Well, I went to the graduation the next year and I saw one of his buddies and I said, "Hey, did this young man graduate?" And he said, No, they expelled him again. So he didn't listen to the prophetic word. Now, I believe because of my religious view, yeah, dreams can predict the future. But I'm also a skeptic, and I can think scientifically skeptical. Okay, it seems like my dream predicted the future. Huh? I mean, doesn't it? I think it did. But on the other hand, I can explain it away. If we're having a discussion, I help ask you to explain it away. Dreams are just random, man. You can't predict the future like that. Why does it seem like it predicted the future? Well, it seemed like it did, but it really didn't predict the future. I've already told you I dream constantly. And before I was treated, I had hundreds, thousands of dreams. I dreamed all the times. I thought about writing a book. The best times in my life, I was asleep. But who would buy a book like that? I mean, I had some fascinating and wonderful dreams. So I had many of them to begin with. And of those many, there have been some that predicted the future. But when you really think about, okay, hundreds, thousands of dreams, who knows? And one just happened to predict the future. That's just random. That's just circumstance. That's coincidence. It doesn't really predict the future. I think it did, but my critical thinking helps me to figure it out. Now, you were supposed to have looked at a few of these others, and some of them are pretty straightforward. Number 3, Bigfoot exists. Man, I'd have to see some kind of. I want a body. I want to. I'm skeptical. Now, that's not a supernatural claim, though. There could be, it's not out of the natural order. There could be a large primate creature somewhere, especially up in Canada. I mean, that's wilderness. Just millions and millions of acres of nothing. Out there could be a large kind of primate-ish creature like they talk about. So it's not supernatural, but it's extraordinary. And I don't want to see cheesy films. I want to see a body or something. Humans evolved from ape-like creatures. That is not an extraordinary claim because it is not supernatural. It's in response to natural evidence, and we'll discuss that in particular a little later when we discuss scientific theories. It's not too good to be true. I mean, is it? Do you want to be an ape? This is an extraordinary claim. Now, 7 is an extraordinary claim, and hopefully you read the article that goes with it about the stars predicting people's destiny. There is really no way that could happen. The idea that movements of heavenly bodies determine your future in the way that astrology is supposed to work, that is out there. You need to be skeptical and read up on it. I don't care if you think, okay, you're a Taurus and all this. I mean, it's an extraordinary claim. Trust me on that. We talk more about this, but we don't have time. I want to get into some of the other book work. So I'm going to sign off now, and then we'll give you some answers to the other things that you were looking at. So hang in there and come back in just a little bit.